Welcome everyone, I hope you're having a very wonderful day, and welcome to my guide for whitetail deer for Revontuli. Before we begin, I want to quickly break down how today's guide's going to work. So, our first section will be covering their hotspots and locations, and then we're going to move on to weapon recommendations, and then end today's video with the animal profile, which is a custom map, time zones, ammo chart, and more, and everything else that you need to make your hunting life 10 times easier. So, let's get right into it with their drinking time. These guys drink between 8 to 12, and as it comes to hotspots and locations, we're going to open up the map real quick, and I'm just going to show you guys the very bottom border of where whitetail reside, and everything up from what I'm about to show you is whitetail territory. So, we're going to zoom in over here at these two lakes here. We have a little dot here. I don't know if they reside there, but I did see that they can reside here, so I did mark that down, but I have no zones there. Coming off down over here, we have another lake, which houses some more whitetail. I'll just zoom out so you guys can see the grander view of this. And then over here we have some heat marks from where I was hunting some whitetail earlier. Now these guys can kind of stretch down into this river, but I have no zones, so I kind of just cut it off like right here at this end point where it kind of drops down for whitetail. And as we cut across here, now this is where things kind of might get confusing trying to explain, but if we zoom in here, and the 4 lakes on my screen right here can house whitetail in this area. Anything below it, like these 2 lakes here, will house no whitetail whatsoever. It's only going to be raccoon dogs, bears, all that stuff. So, moving off to the right-hand side here, we have this little stretch of this river flowing into the inland here, and we have about 2 whitetail zones here, which is pretty much the endpoint for all the whitetail. So everything above what I just showed you is whitetail territory. Now, when it comes to hotspots, I kind of had some issues with my whitetail. It was very hard to get more than like 2 zones at a lake at all, which I'll show you guys here in just a second. I labeled this as a hotspot mostly just due to how large it is. Now I do feel like I'm also missing some whitetail zones, to be quite honest, so I'll have to go through it, but I did label this lake as a hotspot. It's pretty big, houses, and could possibly house quite a few whitetail. All of our maps are different, I just want to quickly say that. So you could have a butt ton of whitetail at this zone, or just one group at all, but I do believe this has good potential for being a pretty decent hotspot, as I have 2 zones here. And then moving up right above this, we actually have a group of 5 lakes, which I labeled all as a hotspot. They're all pretty close together. You do have an outpost right to the right of it. You could probably tent it up and have a pretty good blast just ping-ponging around the lakes and taking out all these whitetail. I do have at least 1 group of whitetail at each lake, except for this one right here. Another good hotspot coming up to the very northern section, which I do recommend if you're doing your whitetail great one grind to do it up here and then ping pong down below and just check your locations out. This area up here is pretty flat, as you guys can quickly just see. As an example, we do have a lot of flat land at this marsh here, and it's pretty consistent all through the northern region up here in Revontuli. We're going to open our map again just quickly, and we're going to zoom in on this lake. Now, I did see from quite a other people's maps and stuff that you have some decent whitetail zones here. I don't know if I'm going to have more than 2, but currently right now I have 2 at this lake, so I did mark that down. Another really good hotspot location, which I'm very excited for, is this swamp over here on the right. I have 4 zones here, which is one of my highest capacity zones because there's only 2 that have that many on my map, so I did mark this down as a hotspot. Now, we're going to come down here just to show you my other high capacity zone, which I would not consider a hotspot, so I marked it down as a common. I have 4 whitetail zones at this very tiny lake. I don't know why, but I'm probably going to have to move those zones from there. But that's pretty much it when it comes to their hotspots and locations. So I'm going to head back to the outpost, so I'll see you guys there in just a second. Alrighty folks, so here we are back at the outpost. Before we begin, I want to mention quickly 3 things. First things first is, I'm only going to be covering rifles, handguns, and shotguns. I'll not be covering bows because I'm not a bow expert, so I'll leave that to professionals. Secondly, these are just my personal recommendations and favorites, so I say go out there and explore and see what suits you and what you enjoy playing with. And then lastly, I'll be mentioning whatever deals these weapons come from in case you want to pick them up for yourself. So, let's get right into it with our first rifle day. Now, this is one of my favorite rifles in all of Call of the Wild. The Malmer 7mm is just a very phenomenal rifle covering classes 4 through 9. It's super high powered. You have 3 rounds in there. It does have some kick to it, so placing follow-up shots will be kind of iffy, but if you put your perk points into rifle handling, then you'll definitely do fine when it comes to managing this rifle. And it's just one of my best, one of the top 5 easily for me to use in Call of the Wild. It definitely has that range down, and you can just snipe and laser beam with this thing. And you can find it in the Hunter Power Pack DLC. Moving on to our second rifle day. Now this is just because of this map. We are based in Finland, and I feel like that the Mosin fits perfectly here, as the Finnish did make their own version of the Mosin during World War II. So I did want to offer this up and give it some love, as I feel like the Mosin in this game just does not get the attention that it deserves. The downside to it, unfortunately, is you do only have access to soft points, but it drops Whitetail with ease. It's very fun to use, and if you want a weapon that fits the map perfectly, I recommend using this bad boy right here. And you can find it in Weapon Pack 2. Moving on down to our final rifle today, I am offering a semi-auto version here. We have the Zarza 10 308. It's pretty decent. I recommend, like I said, putting your perk points into rifle handling so you can place these follow-up shots on this thing. You have 5 rounds in there. It's just a solid rifle, and it definitely does well on all these Class 4 deer, especially the Whitetail, and you can find it in the Modern Rifle Pack DLC. Moving on to handguns, everyone already knows if you watch my guide videos what I'm about to say. The 4570 Jernberg Spear is the best gun in Call of the Wild in terms of handguns. It's phenomenal, man. You only have 1 round in there. However, the rifle scope that you could put on this thing just makes it better than all the rest, in my opinion. It covers classes 4 through 9, just like the Melmer. It's just a handy little sidearm. If you want to level up your pistols, I recommend using this bad boy, and you can find it in the High Caliber Weapon Pack DLC. Moving on to shotguns, we're going to scroll down here. This is another common shotgun that I recommend a lot, the Norden 20 gauge Serviceman, or just the Norden in general. It's just a very good shotgun. It's 20 gauge, you have 3 rounds in the tube, semi-automatic, very decent. Recommend loading up some slugs on it and putting a good shotgun scope on it and going to town on these Whitetail if that's what you want to use in terms of shotguns. I also recommend using at least maybe the Grelic or the, what is it called? Where is it? This one's my personal favorite shotgun, just off the cuff here. Where are you? I can't even find my favorite shotgun. The Strecker right here, which I think is in the Wild Goose Chase pack. This is one of my favorite shotguns. Just another one off the cuff I just want to recommend. But that's pretty much it for a weapon recommendation. So I'll see you guys over in the animal profile in just a moment. And here we are, folks, at the end of today's video. Before I let you guys go, I'm going to do a quick animal profile breakdown. So on the left-hand side, we have all of our basic whitetail deer information. We have our class, difficulty, silver, gold, and diamond threshold. We have our weight from least to greatest in kilograms and in pounds. We have our fur types here on common, rare, and very rare. Now, I do also want to mention the Great One fur types are all the ones that we just listed. Moving on to the center map, we covered all the information at the beginning of today's video. Moving on to the top right-hand corner, we have all of our time zones nice and organized for you. And then below that, we have our ammo chart for those full integrity kills. So, pretty much does it for today's video, folks. If you did enjoy and this guide does help you, please drop a like. It really helps out the channel. With all the way up, you guys have a very wonderful day. Happy hunting, good luck, and I will see you guys in the next one.